Hey everybody, I'm going to be doing a test today with Lett's resin, regular epoxy resin, not the fast cure. And I've mixed 10 ounces so that I can use about 2 in each coaster. And then I'm going to do white mixtures. And today I'm going to do a Lett test, which will be with pigment. And I'm going to use the Lett's resin Ocean White. And on the right, it's going to be alcohol ink. I'm going to use Pinata White alcohol ink. I'm going to put a tiny bit of White Crystal by Etsy Funshine Color Shop, just a tiny bit in each one. And we're going to see what kind of results we get using pigment versus alcohol ink. I have a mixing video, 1058, if you want to refer to it, for all mixing. On the brands, viscosities, it doesn't matter. It's the same way I mix all my resins. We're at 23 minutes, so I'm going to get busy and mix up the white. Okay, so I actually put the white in pretty late into the process, not on purpose. It's blooming beautifully, and I don't see a lot of difference right now, but we'll see when we get to the point of unmolding. Those are glass bits, gold silver, which is a mixture that you can get from Amazon, and I just got a bag of glass bits that were black. Really small ones. I like the really tiny ones. Yeah, we're just going to see how the pigment versus alcohol ink does in the process. I'll be back in about probably 5 or 6 hours because Lett's resin takes a lot longer to cure than what I'm used to with counterculture. So we have to wait longer for the actual process. And I will probably put a background layer on, so that's why I'll come back and hopefully make those petals, the white petals, pop, unless they just turn out absolutely gorgeous. And I only filled, these molds came from Amazon. They're 5 inches, and I love the bigger ones. They hold 4 ounces, and I only put maybe 2 ounces at the most in each one, so they're only half full. When you're looking at it from sitting down, it's kind of disconcerting because it looks like they're more than halfway full, but actually when I poured the resin in, they look less than half full. But I'm just going on ounces, and when I get a new mold, I pour water into it to see how much it holds. That gives me an idea of how much I'll need for each coaster. I will be back in about 6 hours, and we'll take it to the next step. Okay, it's time to unmold. I use the fast set from Counterculture DIY, so it cures in an hour or two, so you can go ahead and unmold quickly. Alright, here we go. This is the side that I use the pigment in, the Lett's Resin Pigment. Oh, that is beautiful. That's pretty perfect, really. Oh, that's beautiful. That was kind of like the perfect combination. Okay, so that's with Ocean White pigment. Regular Lett's Resin epoxy made to use in molds. Lett's Resin Ocean White. I think I used 1 drop. A tiny little bit of sparkle with the white crystal. And then, of course, the background was the second part. This is with alcohol ink. Okay, a little bit wispier, but still beautiful. So let me compare the two. With the pigment, it's a little bit more defined. With the alcohol ink, it's a little more feathery looking. So if you have a problem with pigment and you can't get your bloom to work, I'm telling you, this is the way to go. I'd have to look back on my timing. I don't remember what time it was when I put the white into the clear resin, but I'll go back when I'm editing the video and I'll put it in the comments here to let you know the timing on when I put the white in. I have to say, if you have issues just making blooms in general, you can just use alcohol ink. How easy is that? But if you want just a little bit more precise, that is just stunning. Stunning! There's that experiment. Pigment versus alcohol ink. I think you're a winner either way. But if you struggle with blooms, this is just a straightforward hack that you can do specifically to get a gorgeous bloom. Now I like to top coat my coasters. It just gives a little bit glassier look. So again, I'm going to use fast set just like I did in the purple background. I'm going to use the same fast set and put a top coat on. And any coaster only uses in 1/2 ounce or less to top coat. So I only need 2 ounces to top coat these coasters. I'm going to mix that up. I'll just do a little fast speed thing through it. The cool part about the fast set is it's kind of a syrupy, thick kind of consistency. So you don't have to mask off the bottom or take off the bottom if you just do it quickly and efficiently and just bring it to the edge. It won't just flow over like a medium viscosity or a thinner viscosity because of the fast set being a thick viscosity. I did not use Lett's Resin Fast to Cure. It takes much longer to cure, and I love Counterculture Fast Set because it cures in 2 hours and you can touch it and everything, and I use it all the time for top coats and for background layers where you're just using like one color or whatever. You can't use it to get any kind of bloom effects or anything like that. It's not geared for that because of the working time. So I'm going to mix up 2 ounces of fast set. Okay, I've mixed up my resin. I use the same method for all viscosities, all brands, no matter what. Same mixing time, everything. I have that in video 1058 if you're interested in watching my mixing 101. This is my little mini turntable, and it's perfect for putting coasters on it. What I do is I tape down a piece of frog tape that's face up so it's sticky a little bit. Tape it down just to the edge and then cut off the tape so it doesn't keep it from spinning. And then I just place my coaster on it just lightly, and that way it doesn't slip and slide on the plastic turntable. And then it's super easy to just lift off, but it's enough tack to hold it in place while I'm coating it with my silicone brush. I wanted to show you too, these are brand new molds, but if you see, it's not really super shiny, and there's even like a place right there, some kind of a line that was in the bottom surface of my mold, and they're brand new. So I always top coat my coasters unless they're super shiny, especially when I'm using Amazon molds. I just will split this up into 4 on the coasters and go quickly. You got to work fast. There's only a 10-minute working time. I'm going to show you though one of them. This also makes it glassier looking. And it's all heat resistant, 500 degrees with counterculture. So you can put coffee cups and so forth on it. I'll leave a little bit in my cup just in case I need it. So the first thing I do is heat it with my low temp heat gun, get rid of the bubbles. Well, I say that, it doesn't get rid of all the bubbles. It makes it more fluid, I guess you would say. But what I'm going to do is it kind of turns itself, but I'm just going to drag it out to the edge. You can hold it with your thumb there if you need to keep it from spinning. And I'm just lightly dragging it to the edge. And I've got my lighting to where I can see where my edge is, but it's not going over the edge because it's syrupy, it's thick. So you can hold it with your thumb if you don't want it to spin. So that quickly, I have coated a coaster. Again, you only have 10 minutes. The longer it goes, the thicker it gets, the more tacky it gets. And you just kind of look around to make sure that it goes to all your edges. And then you use the torch, pop those bubbles and move on to the next one. I'm going to fast forward through the rest. I want to show you this last one. If you have it down on your table, you can just spin it. You won't have to hold it either. You can spin it as you work on it. And I'm kind of doing a light sweeping motion. It takes it to the edge, but kind of goes to that edge and circles around, so you don't go like trying to swipe off resin all the way over the edge. So you're keeping a light enough touch, and because you only put a 1/2 ounce on each one, you don't have a ton of resin that's going to flow over the edge. That's just the exact right amount to put on a coaster to keep it from overflowing. And it's just enough to give it a nice coat, make it nice and glassy looking. It's as simple as that. I've done all the coasters and I have a little bit left, and I'm just going to dribble a little bit in the centers and let it just kind of self-level out when I heat it, just to use up my resin. I would rather have a little extra left over to add than to put too much on at the very beginning, but these are 5-inch coasters and they will use 1/2 ounce for the top coat. You have smaller coasters that you could probably get by with a little less than 1/2 ounce, but this is the perfect amount for 5-inch coasters. You don't want them touching either, because if you were to have them touching and the resin cured that way, you're going to have to pry them apart. And you can go around and feel the edges, but I know I can visually see that I didn't go over the edge. But you don't want to go past 10 minutes on messing with it at all, because what happens is it starts tacking up, and then when you touch it or anything and you pull that brush away, it will leave a little mound or a little swirly thing. And you also, if you have leftover resin in your cup, you've got to put it on here before 10 minutes, because if you wait after that, it leaves a little trail. It's kind of an unusual thing about fast set. One last time with the fire. You don't have to worry about ruining molds or anything when you do this, because they're not in a mold, so you can use like a medium fire if you want to. And fast set does have more bubbles than most other resins because it is thick, and the thicker your resin, the more bubbles you're going to have. I typically spray with alcohol on other projects, so like medium viscosity. I don't spray with alcohol on fast set. Sometimes it'll leave little divots. Not always, but sometimes. So these will be done in 2 hours. One other tip is you never want to put your coaster back down on your mat if there's any chance of it having any drips of resin or anything, you want to make sure that mat is clean of any wet drips or something like that. After these have cured for 2 hours, I'm going to use my Deco Color Premium, and it's gold oil paint pen, and it has a kind of a wedge type chisel tip, and it's perfect for, and I'm not going to do the sides, I'm just going to go around the edge at the top and put a gold line, and that will kind of add that gold just around the edges to go with the gold centers, just to make it a little bit more cohesive. And with this is gold oil paint, you have to let it dry at least 15 to 30 minutes before you go touching it, because it takes longer to dry than, you don't use acrylic pens, because if you wanted to clean these, say with Windex or something, this will be fine, but if you put an acrylic pen on the edges, an acrylic gold pen of some sort, it's not going to stay because it's water-based. This is oil-based, and I love this one, and I really, really love the jumbo one. It's a different brand. This is Pebeo for Artist. See how big that is? That is really great to do sides of coasters, because it's right about the same width of or depth of a coaster right there. This is oil based as well. These are my two favorites to use, but because I want just a line, I'm just going to use this. But this is really, you can go really kind of quick with this big one. It's amazing how quickly you can go. So I'll use one or the other of these, maybe show you both, but the gold paint is about the same look. It's just two different brands. This is, I think, even at Michael's, but both of these are on Amazon, and they'll be in my link below the video. So I'll be back. Okay, it's been about 2 hours, and you can touch them. I don't press on them a lot because it will leave a little bit of a thumbprint at 2 hours if you hold it like really tight. But you can also use a low temp heat gun and get rid of that if you do get a little thumbprint kind of impression. So this is the last one. I've already done these on the edges. I actually have a hair that landed on the very corner right there, but I'm going to leave it because I like to leave my DNA in anything I create. That's just, it makes it extra special, right? So I'm going to use the jumbo one because it's really fast and furious. To get it started when it's new or anytime, you always shake because it is oil based. And that just makes sure it's really mixed well. And then you just press down on a piece of paper just to get it going. Gets that metallic gold going there. And you just go. You just put it on the edge. And then you turn your coaster. And if you want to go over it a couple times, but I'm not doing the sides at all. I'm just doing the edge. And I'll make sure these little points have good coverage. Or sometimes a line might look a little thinner than the rest. You want them all to look pretty equal. But that's all you do. And there's nothing on the side. It's just the edges. And again, like if you pressed and you got a thumbprint, which I don't know if you can see that, there's a little bit. You just take your low temp heat gun, do that, and that little thumbprint disappears in a flash. So there are the results, and I am super pleased, and I think this might help somebody if they're having trouble trying to get a bloom. You could use exactly what I used, which was Lett's resin, clear epoxy resin made for molds. It's the blue label and the purple label. It has the little jellyfish on it. It's not the fast cure, it's the regular resin. I used white alcohol ink from Pinata. And I don't know if different alcohol inks perform differently, but that's the white that I use with every resin video I've ever made. I always use Pinata white. I keep a big bottle of it and I just keep refilling my little bottle. I have sets of alcohol inks, but I never use the white in them. I always use Pinata. So that was this side. And on the left side, it was 2 drops of Ocean White pigment paste from Lett's resin. So you could literally just get you a small kit of the Lett's resin epoxy, a bottle of this, which is going to last forever because it is a 4-ounce bottle. You wouldn't have to ever replace this. It would last forever. You could use that if you wanted to, or if you didn't have that and you did have alcohol ink, you could get a bloom effect with just white alcohol ink. And I think that's so fabulous, and that's like a game changer for people that are struggling with blooms. The other important factor was timing. I let my resin sit for 30 minutes before I really put it in the molds, put the alcohol inks in a little bit, mixed up my mixtures, and before I started pouring my white mixture, that was at 35 minutes. So, and when my cups felt warm, like comfortable warm, not hot. You don't ever want it to feel hot, because if it's hot, you've gone too far and it won't bloom. That was really kind of the perfect temperature, and I'm sure it was over 100 degrees. I didn't measure it with my thermometer. I forgot to with my digital, infrared thing. It was probably about 100 degrees when I put them into the molds, and so at 35 minutes, it's going to be at least that temperature, and the white mixtures are going to feel warm. Once you pour your resin into a mold, it's going to cool down because you're putting it back into a wider spread, and it's going to be thinned out, so it's going to cool down. So the important part to me, I think, for a successful bloom is to give it some time to warm up in your bigger cup. Check the temperature then and wait. Be patient until you get at least to 95 to 100 degrees. Then put it in the mold. But in your little white mixture cups, when it feels warm, that's the perfect timing to do your thing. And then you just, do your swirls, or, whatever style, or, some people do circles, and there's all different kinds of ways to make pretty flower-like blooms. But to me, this is one of the easiest ways, is just to put it down in a spiral. And really, I think the thinner the layer of resin is, when I put 2 ounces into this 5-inch mold, it was only halfway full, so it's not super thick. The other half you see here is this background layer. So actually, the first layer was only, an 1/8 of an inch thick or less. And so really, the thinner your layer is of clear resin, like if you don't fill your whole mold up with clear resin and you have it thinner, I think you get a more successful bloom as well. So that's something to keep in mind. But anyway, I don't want to bore you with all my theories. I feel like that was pretty darn perfect, and such a great example of choosing pigment versus alcohol ink and what you have on hand in your studio. So I hope you learned something from this. If you do, please comment and let me know that you learned something from this video, and that maybe it helped you in this, or maybe it gave you the courage to try it since you've not had any luck, or you wanted to try it but never tried it before. Go for it and try this. You won't be disappointed. And remember that I do have a video, 1058. If you're not familiar with mixing resin, it's a 101 mixing kind of thing, and it's for any brand, any consistency. I use pretty much the same method with all my resin projects. So if you want to check that out, just to help you learn how I mix. Slow and steady is the key. Just constantly going around your cup and scraping the edges. I also have the Resiners mixer. Once it's charged, it's wireless, and you can just turn on the little dial and put your little paddles on there. There's a smaller one and a bigger one. With that, even if you use that, you still need to, when you take it out from under those paddles and you have your resin in your cup, you still need to make sure to get around all those edges. Make sure it's really all mixed in really well, because if it's not, then you will not have a successful cure, and it may not cure properly. So thank you so much for watching. I hope this brought you some knowledge you needed. Please give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. And I would love to hear your comments on this one. I'm really proud of this video. I hope it really helps at least one person learn how to do a beautiful bloom. I love you all. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe. Love you all.